Hey, y'all. I am, of course, super excited to introduce our next guest, a frequent visitor here. I think you should get some sort of punch card by now with how many times you've been on this podcast and even going back to Google Teacher Podcast. Welcome to the show, everybody. I have Pam Hubler. Hi, Pam. Thank you for
Hi,
joining us.
I love joining this.
We have so much fun. We could talk forever, even
Yes.
before we hit record, but I'm so excited to chat with you today about Canva, one of my favorite tools. And I have like a million Canva tabs open every single day. But I want to give everybody a little bit of background on who you are in case they've missed some of these previous episodes. You're an innovative learning coordinator at Berkeley County Schools in South Carolina. We
Yep.
got our Southern girl in the house. And tell us a little bit about your journey in education and your experience, because you have some unique experience to share.
Yes. I guess I am going into my 28th year in education, I believe. And I've taught
I'm
special
losing
ed.
track. Don't feel bad.
Yeah. Oh, I have a sticky note literally that has the years, like the dates, and then the year next to it. So I will remember. But anyway, so 28 years. And I've done everything from I did gen ed, taught first grade, special ed. I was an instructional coach, personalized learning coach, and my most recent and the best job ever, an ILC is it's the easy term, but innovative learning coordinator. And so I get to go to multiple schools throughout the district and help the teachers, help the students, integrate technology, or really just anything that's innovative practices in general. Sometimes it's coding, sometimes it's robotics, sometimes it's literally just like makerspace type things. And we have a ITO truck. It's innovative technology on wheels that we got through a Google grant. And so we get to go to schools and do things with that. We have a podcast. So that's actually the Innovation Squadcast. So we do all sorts of things with my team. It's amazing.
I love your school. I have had the privilege of actually teaching there with you
Yes.
and hanging out with your team, and know lots of people now that work with you, and y'all are all so awesome. So it's an honor to have you back and to have you talking about one of my favorite topics. And like I said, we are going to talk about Canva today, y'all, but we're going to get kind of back to some basics in this
Yes.
one. Pam is going to do more of a beginner session. So if you're listening to the podcast, don't forget, we also have the YouTube version that you can jump on over and watch the video if you get lost. We will try to do our best to kind of explain things as we're clicking around and share some tips and maybe some new features that have come out along the way. Pam, would you go ahead and tell us, please, what's on the screen right now?
Oh, yes. Yes, I had to do I always have a little intro just because I'm a person like everyone listening. Yeah, I had to put some pictures because I live on a farm and we have goats and chickens, a dog, and of course I have my children and my husband. So yes, I had to put some pictures up there. The goats that are bouncing around, so you have to watch. If you're listening, you have to go check it out just to see them. Are
They're
Sugar
so
Bean
cute.
and Snap Pea. So those are our two little goats. They're 11 weeks old and they are hilarious. But anyway, so
And your children, your beautiful children, they're at Bucky's, I have to say. I love
yes,
that.
yes, yep, they're at Bucky's. Yes, and one is in high school and one is in college. So they're both going to be juniors this year. Just one in high school, one in college. So
Wow. I can't
fun
believe how much
times.
they've grown. Yep. And wait, I have to know where that Bucky's is.
That one is the one that's in St. Augustine. So it's at the World Golf Village. So it's
Okay.
an easy spot
Okay.
to
That
stop on our
they've
Florida
been
tour.
spreading them out everywhere because they're no longer confined to Texas. You can find them in some other places now. But yeah, if you've never been to a Bucky's, there is nothing in the world like it, y'all. Nothing is like
You got to go
Bucky's.
once.
It's like the superstore of convenience stores, and convenience store is really a terrible name for it because they have everything. Everything you could think of, every kind of food. They have clean restrooms, which is
Yes.
is the biggest thing. If you see one and you're traveling, that's where you want to stop to go use the restroom. They have lots of parking and lots of like more gas pumps than you've ever seen in your entire life. So, okay, I digress. Thank you, Pam, for sharing your family. Let's get started. Let's talk about what is Canva and how is this important in education now?
This is one thing that I don't think I can get through a day at work without using Canva at least once. So, and I was always that Google girl because we've done that. We did that podcast a long time ago on Potty PD, and I used Google Drawings. But there was a lot where you had to go to different places to get visuals and things like that. So you can still create in Google Drawings, still great. I still use it for a lot of things, but when we're creating visuals or if we're creating really anything, I always end up going to Canva because you can find elements, you can find fonts. Even we use, I have a Cricut that I cut things out at home, and I always end up in Canva first to create things, and then I use my Cricut to cut things out. So you can use it for so many things.
I didn't know about the Cricut stuff. I haven't had time to get into that. If I had been at a different stage in motherhood, I probably would have already had one that may be coming in terms of having to create things for him. But what I want people to understand about Canva too is I've been using Canva. I don't know how long it's been around, but I've been using Canva for most of the time that I've been blogging, which is 10 years. I didn't start there, but a couple of years in, I would say I started using Canva, and it initially was an image creation tool, and that's what I told people it was. It was great for bloggers. It was a great place to, create your blog images and everything you see on my site. Even the logos that I create, which may end up in a Google Slides presentation sometimes, are usually created first in Canva. And in my courses, everything, all the, cover art for the podcast, everything. I just updated that. I made that in Canva. So I use Canva for everything. But what has changed here is there is now something called Canva for Education. So if you're listening to this and you're brand new, or maybe you signed up for a free account and may not know this because this happened when I was teaching a workshop, is you want to sign up for Canva for Education because you're essentially getting the paid version of Canva for free as an educator. They have increased their little verification process. I've noticed it used to be a lot easier, but you do have to use your school email and they want to verify where you work before they give it to you for free. But there is that piece. And then my friend Scott Nunes, who we've had on the show before too, he works at Canva in the Canva for Education department. And he will tell you how great it is to have your entire school adopt it. And I know Pam is going through that process right now. She may have some things to share, but in terms of getting those accounts created for teachers and for students. So I just want to kind of reiterate, even though we may have been using it for years, maybe even to create presentations and images and things, we've hit a new level in terms of lesson planning, templates, and collaboration. I think that to me was kind of the surprising thing when I was like, oh, I didn't know we could do this. Some things that we've kind of typically gone to Google or Microsoft for are kind of making their way into Canva. What do you see Canva evolving into, Pam?
Oh my gosh, there are so many things. And I did in the presentation that I have, I did link to the Canva for Educators. So if anybody does need to find more information or see what the differences are, it is linked on the bottom of the presentation. But I think that collaboration part that you're talking about is so important. And we use that just like my team alone. And I could just think of teachers, when you're creating things and you're spending your time creating things, you don't want to spend all your time and then you've got an entire team that's doing the same thing. So it's the whole, sharing is caring thing. And to be able to work on something together is amazing. But then also now that we're able to start using it with students, and I know there are some things that you have to do on the back end, as far as, filters and the students, how old they are and how they do the single sign-on. So there's a lot on the back end that districts have to figure out with Canva to get them to use it. And it also depends on how your filters are. But that is one of those things that for them to be able to interact with the things that you create as a teacher, it can take everything to a new level. You're not having to create worksheets and pass things out. And there are a lot of things you can put in a worksheet that you want kids to be able to fill out. But if you can get interaction there and then have them working together on things, it's so much more valuable.
Exactly. And just so everybody knows, we will have the link to Pam's slides below the video, and we'll include it in the show notes and on the blog post as well. So you will have this. And I believe you can just go to canva.com/education, and you'll see tons of resources there too. In fact, I have used that for lots of trainings and things as I am learning and creating. But Pam, I want you to mention what's on the screen right now, because you have something great to tell teachers.
Oh, yes. So, okay, what we're going to talk about today is just talking about like how you can make presentations and posters and infographics, newsletters, badges, all that stuff. But most importantly, it's to not spend your hard-earned money on materials created by a stranger on Teacher Pay Teacher. So we're going to elevate your teaching toolkit with Canva Creations, because we know you can create this stuff. And I mean, Teacher Pay Teacher, I used to buy things off of there. I did. But this is one of those things, and I know we've talked about it before. It's just, you need to make it yours, and it's not something that you want to spend your hard-earned money on. So if you can get it for free, thanks to Canva.
Yes. And like we said, we're going to show you some things that if you've never seen Canva before, and if you've only ever seen Teacher Pay Teachers, then we're going to blow your mind.
Yes. Yeah. And you'll know where half of them create their stuff.
Exactly.
So, all right.
Okay.
So you want me to go
blow
ahead?
Our mind, Pam. Show us something cool.
Okay. And I do have a lot of beginning stuff. So if you are somebody that's already used it, some of this may be like, yeah, I do that all the time. But I just wanted to make sure that we kind of touched on all the levels of usage for Canva. And in the presentation, I have a couple different places where generally I always tell people to start with templates, because you might have something in mind, but if you look at templates, oh my gosh, some of it's already created for you, and all you have to do is kind of tweak the things that you want. But under the templates and under education, you can look for resource type and then look at templates for whether it's a newsletter or presentation and things like that. So what I'm going to show, go ahead.
Yeah, can you show that?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, so
sorry, you have an animation going. I just interrupted you.
Oh no, it's okay. I do have that, but let me go ahead. Let me just go ahead and I'll put that back in full screen so that way we can see it. Okay, so I have a GIF going here that shows you how to use the templates, and all you have to do when you go into Canva, and you'll see on the left-hand side, if you're watching, but if you're not watching, you can have different teams in Canva. So if you're just using it just personally, you'll only see your name. But if you do have a school account, you can actually have teams, and you can have, let's say, like my coworkers. I might have a team just for us to be able to share easily. And then I have one right now that says staff and admin, because that's something that is identified for everybody that's in my district that are considered staff or admin. So that way it's easy to share within the team.
I didn't know that.
What I'm showing here is just when you search templates at the top, there's a little box that you can just type in, and there's either templates or projects. If you already created something, you can look at projects and search just like you do in Google. But if you are just looking to start from scratch, all you have to do is in that little search box, you just click on it, type whatever it is. In this case, I use newsletters just because I wanted a cool little template. And then once you can scroll down, you can go on for a long time looking at all the templates. You click on one, and then you can click customize template, and then you can go from there.
No, I like this. So I didn't realize that the school could set up, and is the school created teams, or can you create your own team?
Yes, school created teams. You can create your own teams also. Okay. But I think for the sharing, especially if you're going to be a district that also allows students to be able to access it, they have to be able to differentiate between what's staff and admin and what's student.
Okay. No, I like this. Yeah. I didn't realize this. And this reminds me, of course, of the template gallery in Google, which
Yes.
when you had your Google domain, you could also add your school templates in there too. So as someone creates something with your school logo and colors and things like that too, those can be added and shared right there, I'm assuming, as well.
Yes. Yeah. There are brand kits that whoever is the person in charge of the whole account, they can actually
Mm-hmm.
put their colors in there. It is really nice because then once that's pushed out, I don't think we have ours set up, but once that's pushed out, everyone can use the same colors because they're school colors or district colors or whatever. And it's really easy for everyone to kind of have similar things as far as visuals and maybe
Yeah.
like the logo for the district. You don't want to
Yeah,
be, going
exactly.
to Google, searching it, copying it, pasting it, and hoping you have the right one. So
Oh,
it's
yeah, because I'm seeing you have something called work kits in your account, and I have a pro account. I also have access to education, but I typically am working more in my pro account, and I have brand kits, but I wasn't sure how that was going to translate in terms of the teacher and the school. Of course, you can brand anything you want to, but
yes.
yeah, no, I see this now, and this is brilliant.
Yes. And the work kit, so I mean, that says new next to it. I haven't even clicked on it yet because that one is new. And I know they just had the Canva, do they call it Canva Create? The whatever they do,
Yeah,
like at the
their
end
big
of the school year.
conference.
Yes. I know they
Hmm.
just had that and I didn't get a chance to watch it to see what's new that has popped up. But every time I go in there, it's kind of like Google where you log in and you're like, oh, that's new.
Yeah,
And so,
yeah.
yes. So it is a good one. But
So So let's back up for a second
yeah.
and say I am a brand new user.
Mhm.
I found a template I want to use. What do I do next? Because obviously I've got to make some changes. Even if
Right.
it's almost there, I need to, put my name on it.
Mhm.
And as Pam and I will always tell you, you want to customize the template before you just print it out and give it to your kids, right? Or
Right.
parents or whoever you're giving it to.
Yes.
We've all been there and downloaded something for free that we thought was awesome until we like actually read it and oh, maybe I needed to spend some time customizing this a little bit. So show us the steps, the kind of those beginner steps, because I've received some feedback recently that I didn't do this and back up enough to go through the basics.
And it's easier when we do this all the time when we do sessions with teachers that there are some, they're like, wait a minute, how did you even find that? So like they missed a step. And when you get used to using something, you forget all the steps you actually take. So yes, that is true. All right. So what I am doing right now is I just searched for newsletter. And what pops up on the screen is I've got all these different templates, and there's also create blank. So if you know exactly what you want to create, you just wanted to be able to, let's say, have that layout, like 8.5 by 11 or whatever, then you can click on create blank. But I'm going to just go ahead and click on one. And this one says classroom newsletter, and it has a weird title. Like this one says blue and pink, colorful, edgy
Yeah.
school classroom newsletter. And you will want to rename them because otherwise you will never be able to find it again if you
And
search it.
wait before you
Yes.
click the button, because this is something a lot of people, and I'm guilty of this too. When I see the template, I don't always look at the size. So that one will tell you, one, it has EDU at the top. So it's part of
Mhm.
EDU, but it also says it's a newsletter template and says 8.5 by 11 inches. So y'all, if you don't know, that's the standard sheet of paper. And there is a little paper type drop down.
Mhm.
So you can change that if you're going to have Canva print it, but that's the paid for thing, right?
Right. Yeah. You don't, and that's only if you want them to print it. And they do have some amazing things. But then you can scroll down to the details and you can have availability, all that kind of stuff. But generally, we don't have to worry about too much of that. You can just click on the customized template. Another thing you can do is there's a star at the bottom to the right of customize the template. So if I click on that, then I can always go back and just click on. So like if I have a bunch of templates that I like and I want to kind of click back on the ones and then choose, if I click on the star, I can go back to all my favorited.
Like your favorites. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And then there's some three dots to the right hand side. And that means you can click on that and click share. There's a report too. I don't think we'd have to worry about that. But so you can share it just from the template itself. So, all right. So I'll go ahead and click customize this template and it will open. There it goes.
It will. There it goes. New
Yes.
tab.
All right, so it does open in a new tab. And if you expand on the bottom, there's a little scroll bar on the bottom. I know when I first started using Canva, I'm like, it's tiny, I can't see it. So there is a little scroll bar on the bottom that if you drag it open, and you can also use your fingers on your mouse pad or things like that, but then you can actually expand it so that way you can see a little bit better. So now what I have is on the left-hand side, there's design because that's what it opens in. Then there is a section that says elements, and that's where you can add different clip art and things like that to it. Then going down the left, I click on text, and you can add different text boxes if you want to add some more. And then you cannot keep on going on the left. There is brand. If we have a brand, which we don't, I don't in my district, we don't have the brand right now because the admin sets it up, and then you can choose a brand kit where you can use the colors, fonts, and things like that and apply it to a template, which is really nice because then you don't have to think about it. Like if you've got a standard set, then you could always do that.
Yes.
And then continuing on the left-hand side, there's a section that says uploads. So if you have screenshots or pictures or things like that that you want to put in your newsletter, that's where you can find them in uploads on the left. And it keeps track of all the uploads you've done. So if you've been using it for a while, you can go down for a while for all the uploads.
I'm really surprised they haven't like limited like your space on that because I have so much in mine, like years and years of uploads that I still can go back to.
Yeah. Yeah, so I can, like I have a couple of our logos, like our district logos uploaded there, which is nice because since I already have it there, I can just click on it and push it out to this new template.
Yeah.
So that's just going down the left.
Yeah, the left-hand menu, and there are little icons too, as well as the words that describe what it does. So there's a pretty lengthy menu. This used to be very short, but there's a lot of stuff there. And I think the most important stuff's at the top. If you are a new user, you know, probably the top 4 things there are going to be what you really pay attention to. And if you will go back to design, I want to talk about one of my favorite things that's under design. So, of course, we've looked at this template. Maybe we like it, maybe we don't. And so there we can just easily, in one click, change it if we want to pick one of the other ones. But I want you to click on styles. You see the tab?
Yes.
So we're on templates. If you go to styles, if you had a brand kit like she was talking about, that's there. And I use that all the time. So I can put like Shake Up Learning colors on things automatically. But there's also color combinations that are just recommended. So if you kind of geek out on finding little color sets, or maybe you just have your own branding for your color classroom colors and things like that you want to use, you can just in one click on one of those to change it.
And there it goes.
And boom, that's it. Super, super easy. And it changes. You can see there's a button if you want it to apply to all pages. So we have the ability to change everything very, very quickly. Instead of individually, there are a lot of elements, what they call, there's text boxes and there's elements all over this page. So this would take so much time. I really wish I had understood how this worked so much earlier because I have spent a lot of time doing those things. But would you also just click on that little grid so everybody can see that they can see all the pages at once? In the bottom right, the little squares next to your Zoom.
On the bottom, next to the.
I just want to, especially if you're doing a presentation, and sometimes I need to get that 30,000 foot view of everything, but also to show that it did change the colors on everything and how nice it looks. It just, it all flows together. And, because sometimes maybe you're a male teacher and you don't want it to look like a super girly newsletter and you want to change that. There you can change it just to fit whatever personality you want it to fit.
And one thing that I did learn this past year, and I'll actually click on my presentation I'm using today just to show you, I added a page and I hid it in my presentation because this picture, it's just a picture, it's got all these like beachy kind of things. And I added that to a slide or one of the presentation slides. And if you right click on an image, you can scroll down to the bottom and you can click apply colors to page. And then it will change anything that has like an element that can be changed, like where you can actually choose the color of it. It will change those colors. And then you can do that whole refresh and change, depending on, you may not want that certain color. So, and that's what I did for this presentation. I found this template and then I found an image that I liked the colors. I put it into a hidden page and then I was able
You
to
could steal the colors.
Yes, you can steal the colors.
Yeah.
Which is really
Love
cool.
it.
So then if I do want to click on, let's say I click on the lines here for the border style, or not here, let me click on the.
Yeah, I saw that image and I was thinking it was AI generated because of the text on it.
Yeah.
Did you generate that?
No, I didn't generate. I don't remember where I found it, but I probably found it in here in the elements. But
Okay.
if I click, now that I have this, if I click on the little color or background color, you can see the document colors on the left. Then that pulled all the colors from that picture.
Yes.
So that way, if I want to choose just a couple of the elements, it's really easy to do. And then when I'm presenting, I just have this one hidden. And at the top, when you're looking at a presentation, I feel like I'm going all over the place now. When you're looking at a presentation template, you can see the title of the page. You can change the page. So if you want to say like example 1, because we've used this for when we're creating, let's say, a visual for a session that we're doing. And we might have, let's say, 5 different options of what we want the cover to be. Then we might say option 1 or favorite or something like that. So we know which one as a team that we like to use. But there's an arrow where you can move up or move down. So if you're using presentations and you want to go up and down, there's a little eyeball. And that's the part that, since I didn't want this page I'm on right now to come through as I'm presenting, I just click that little eyeball so that way it's hidden. You can lock, where you can only allow replacing content yourself. You can duplicate a page, you can trash it, or you can click the little plus where it adds a new page. So there's a lot you can do within that one.
Yeah. And in case you got a little lost, because we did switch over from our newsletter over to a presentation. No, that's okay, because we can go back to the newsletter and we're going to see very similar tools, if not the exact same ones. When you, if you'll zoom out a little bit, you can see the pages kind of work the same way as they did in a presentation with slides. So she's got 2 pages, and see those tools she's got still has the eyeball, which is if you wanted to hide a page. Although with a newsletter, that's not typically something you're doing because you're going to print it out or email it or something like that. Download it maybe as a PDF. But so when we're back here, let's go ahead and title it, because we did talk about it getting named, whatever the template title is blue and pink, colorful, edgy school classroom newsletter. You're never going to remember the name of that. So go back and just tap on it and name it.
Yep. So I'll call this, let's say, newsletter template, maybe. And then once I click out of it, it's renamed.
Yeah. Right. And you have the ability to see that. That's how it will default when you download anything to be named whatever you named it. So, and if you're like me and you make multiple copies of things, it will copy of when you do that. So, there is file make a copy. So I know we've talked about that in Google things over the years, since I just mentioned that. If I want to make another copy of this for, the next 6 weeks or whatever I'm doing, that's super easy to do. Let's look at the text, because we did, let's do elements first. Elements is first in the menu. So we looked at design.
And I think the element part can be confusing. And this was one of those when we did a training, we just started adding things and not even thinking about people that have never used it before. They're like, wait, where did you get those things? And it's like, oh, you have to click on elements first. So yes, along the left-hand side, you've got the toolbar that has the design, which we already created. And then underneath that, you've got elements. And elements is probably where I spend most of my time. And I'll just search. Let's see, what do we want to search? I'm going to look for a sun just because it's summer. Why not? And you can see all. So it'll go through graphics, photos, frames. The frames are very cool.
They're
Videos.
placeholders for pictures. If you don't know what a frame is, it's a placeholder to drag and drop a picture into.
Yep. And graphics is the first. Then you can like go over to the right-hand side. You'll see graphics if you want to just look at graphics. And that's all I'm looking at right now. And you can choose like a static graphic that's not moving, or you can even choose like the GIF graphic. So if you do want, and if you're printing it, you don't necessarily need it, but if you want to be able to share it digitally where it does have moving parts, even if you want to print it or you want to save it as a PDF, it's fine to use that because it'll still show up as a static image, even if you do have it in there as a GIF. So I'm going to pick one, and as soon as I click on it, as soon as I click on the one I want, it shows up on my design. Now, sometimes it shows up ginormous. And so then you just have to do your usual drag from the corner and make it a little smaller. And then you could just click around and move it wherever you want. And that's all I'm doing right now. I'm just changing the size and moving it. So that way it'll be next to my title of my classroom newsletter. And I did choose a GIF. So, and I'm on team GIF, not GIF. Sorry. So I have that clicked. And when I have that image clicked, you can see crop at the top. You can see flip. So if it's one of those that, let's say you're facing one direction, you want it to go another, you can flip it. They do have a border style. So if you have a graphic and you want it to have a border around it, you can click on that and give it a border. I don't want to do a border for this one. There's an animate option, which is kind of cool, especially if you're going to share it digitally, because then you can choose how it pops in. So if I click on animate, let's say I want it to rise, I can hover over it and see what it'll look like. Pan is another option, and you can just hover over each of the options of the basic animations, and it's almost like when you're doing a presentation, how you go from one slide to another. That's exactly what the image does on your newsletter. So
and it is something you would probably use a lot more in a presentation or a video. Animations are really cool. Yeah. The more I create presentations in Canva, though, the more they drive me crazy, because Canva is still taking me more time to do what I used to do in Google Slides. Not because it's harder, but because I have so many more options. Just like I had kind of gotten my stuff was just, easy peasy, lemon squeezy, had it, adjust it. I knew exactly where I wanted to go. But when I start getting fancy with the animations, and they're really cool, but that is where you can kind of go down a rabbit hole of spending. You could spend too much time looking for your elements too. But what Pam is showing too, if you're listening on the podcast and you're new to Canva and you don't quite understand, it's a contextual menu. So no matter what she selected, she's inserted this element, which is a sun, and it's selected, which you can see the little bars around it. That's when you see the menu to do things to it, like animate it or flip it or crop it or whatever you want to do. And the same will apply when you select the text or any other element. You're going to see different options and features for those different things within there. So she had already mentioned like a border, and I already see some text boxes in there that have some borders, again, part of the learning curve inside Canva, but also what's great at the template is that it makes it so much easier to figure out how some of these things work. And I will tell you, your skills will translate, right? We talk so much about, I don't want to learn another tool. But if you've ever used Google Docs or Google Slides or Microsoft Word or PowerPoint, these tools. Most of what you see in this toolbar. I will give Canva credit, though. This is a much more creative tool than those have ever been. Like, you really had to know your stuff to get super creative, because you had, like you said, you had to bring in things from the outside. And this is all built in. So, we went through a little bit of the elements. This is also where you find shapes, and I use shapes all the time. And it's not because I need lots of circles and squares. It's just like those are things that highlight text boxes and make things look professional and clean. And there's lots of little graphics and lots of little abstract elements that you'll even see in this newsletter that it would take me, I don't know, days probably to recreate this template and to be happy with it, right?
Yes.
But that's, again, the magic of the template. And especially if you're getting started, we want to give you that. That is one of the biggest things is just go search. Whatever it is you're creating. If you're listening to this in the summer, you're probably getting ready for back to school. What kinds of things do you need for back to school? You're looking for a meet the teacher presentation for back to school night. I guarantee you there's one in there that you can go and edit. There's probably several. There might be thousands. I don't know. Because I'm every time I open up those templates and I look at that number, I'm floored. So it could also be overwhelming, but just take it in baby steps. So we have all of those elements. I do want to be sure that we get to the text box because that is definitely where we can spend some time.
What I do when I open a template like this is like I'll just literally click on the text that's in there already and just delete it, just so that way I kind of have a fresh start. So then now I just deleted the little text boxes so I can show you how to create them.
And by the way, I just want to mention to everybody that had that filler Latin text in it. So to say it's a ready-made template, it's a ready-made blank template. They haven't written what's happening in your classroom yet. So
yes, exactly. Yeah. So if anything, if you like the font, then it'll tell you that. But otherwise, you're going to change everything that's there. So, all right. So I'm just going to click on a text box that is there, and I'm going to go ahead and delete the text. And then there's also another one that anytime you see a picture in one of these templates, a lot of times if you click delete, you can see that it was a frame, and that because it has this green grass, like a blue background and white cloud. And that just means if I have a picture and I drag it into that frame, then it will fill in within the frame. So, and I'll go ahead and do that because I know I have things in my uploads. If I go to, let's say, something that I had uploaded, I'll do my chicken. I'm going to click and drag it into the frame. And as I get my mouse like right over the top of it and I let go, that picture will show up in that frame. So it's an easy way to be able to crop pictures by putting a frame there. If you know you're not ready for pictures, but you know that's where you want one, it's nice to put a frame in there so that way as you get pictures, or even if you change this, if this is a newsletter and every week you have another one, create a template with those little frames and then you just delete the picture and drag another picture in there.
Yeah, exactly. And if you've ever looked at somebody's presentation or like, how did they get that picture in the circle? I can only crop it. It's a square picture. How did they turn it? They used a circle frame and they just dropped into it and it cropped. And if you don't like the way it cropped, for instance, if, it chopped half your face off or something like that, you can always double click and it will show you and you can move it around to kind of do it. But it is usually pretty smart at figuring out kind of the middle of the picture, but sometimes you don't want the middle. So you can always go back and adjust that too.
Yes. Okay. So now I'll go ahead and add text. So on the left-hand side, I was looking in elements to be able to get that little sun that I put in mine. If I go down to text, I can see it doesn't matter. There's default text styles. There's add heading, subheading, a little bit of body. It doesn't really matter what you choose because if I click on it,
you can always resize it.
Put a text box on there. Yes, and you can edit later. And so let's say I just take this little text box. It's usually the size of the text itself, and I can drag it around. And text boxes, I do like that it has the corners where you can make it fit within a box, but then it also has the there's like two little lines on the side that shows where you can expand it. So that way it fits right within your template that you have. And now if I click on it, it'll highlight the whole thing. And at the top, you can click on the little drop down, just like if you're in Google Docs or anything like that, there's always the font drop down. I can click on that. Now, this is where you have to be careful because you may spend a lifetime looking at all the fonts because there are so many. And I always say I'm a font snob. So there are, like, I have actually asked, I did a session with Tony Vincent and he was doing Canva. And I had to ask, I was like, wait, what font is that? Wait, what font is that? So I had a
Yes.
list of fonts.
And you
So
can upload your own too. If you get that
yes.
snobby about it, you can upload
Mhm.
your own font.
Yes, you can. So I'm going to go ahead and just, my favorite right now is Crushed. And so I just changed that font. But you can go through, let's say there's handwriting fonts, there's corporate, so it's a little bit more professional. Display, if you want it to be kind of like bubble letters, you can choose heading types, paragraph types. You can go through, there's a lot for fonts, but I won't.
Yeah, you can find whatever you want. And
Yes.
even if it's not like the name of one that you love so much, there's probably one that looks just like it. It has a different name.
Yes.
But like she said, you can spend hours looking
Mm-hmm.
at fonts, but uh I also learn about new fonts when I use a template. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, what's this font? And then what I like is it does kind of keep track of the ones that you've used most recently.
Right.
So the one thing too, I would just keep in mind the age group that you're teaching, and especially with the way some letters display. Obviously, if you're teaching the littles who are learning their letters, keeping that in mind. I had a teacher bring this up in one of my sessions last week, and I forgot what she called it. And I could tell like I was getting into some elementary, primary vocabulary that because I've never taught that,
Right.
But what she really was getting at was the serif and the sans serif. And
Mm-hmm.
so, serif fonts have the little, like Times New Roman, have those little, I forgot what it's called. I actually took a desktop publishing class and learned all this in college, but I can't even think of how to describe this to those on audio. Hopefully, you know
Right.
what I'm talking about. Like Times New Roman is a serif font. Sans serif is like Helvetica or Arial. They don't have those little extra little flares on the edges. But
Mm-hmm.
there is a lot of research that tells us that it is easier on your eyes to read serif online. So just keep that in mind in terms of differentiating for your kids when you're creating things. I think fonts can be fun, but they can also, like I printed something that had the ABCs for my 3-year-old, and the font choice was so poor that the
Uh-huh.
letters didn't really look like the right letters, and that's what it was making me think of. And I'm also here thinking that this classroom newsletter has a super cool script font. It's in cursive, y'all. How many kids know cursive anymore? So I'm sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent, but that's what I started thinking about.
Yes, and the good thing is the when you're looking at the fonts, they do have sans serif and they have serif. So if you know you want it to be a serif font, but you don't really know what that means, uh, you can search that and then scroll through and find something that you like better. So if I'll go ahead and change mine so that way I know that it is a serif font. So I
Hey,
chose
Pam,
it. Yes.
you're a good person to ask this question. So,
Yeah.
I know there is a dyslexia font, or probably several that are they in there?
I think it's called Lexend.
Lexen.
The
Okay.
Lexend, and then there's like Lexend Deca. There's a bunch of different ones
Different
that
ways.
are supposed to be easiest for kids to be able to read. And you can tell like the A is the standard A, not the one with the little
Hmm.
the storybook A is what I call it.
Yeah.
So everything is very crisp as far as the letters. So
I remember my niece is dyslexic, and I had learned at a conference on my own about a font that she could install on her iPad. This was several years ago. She's in college now. And this font, I had never seen it before. It was heavy on the bottom is the only way to describe it. Like the bottom part of the letter was fatter than the top. And when she installed it, my sister said, these were her exact words: the letters aren't moving anymore.
wow.
So I mean, that just kind of struck me, obviously I've never had that problem before, so I didn't understand what she sees and how difficult some fonts could be. So
Yes.
I've shared that story a lot over the years, but I haven't thought about it recently. But Yeah, we kind of went off on the font choice, but that's a good point for teachers in differentiating classroom materials and
Mhm.
things like that to keep that in mind.
Yes. Yeah, so I did change this one. I'll just put this as the Lexend EXA is what that font is. But and once I'm in there, I can change up at the top. There's you can change the size. And generally, if you just click on the minus, it'll make it go smaller, so that way you can see what looks right. And then the other options you'll see sometimes on the three dots all the way on the right hand side, there's a little ABC, which I really like because this is something that not all programs do, is that you can click on that AA where you can make everything uppercase, or you can click on it and put uppercase and lowercase, because it's a pain to have to do that yourself if it doesn't do that for you.
Yes,
But
I
there's
love that
a
too.
lot you can
Especially if you
change.
change your mind, because certain fonts look good in all caps and some do
Mhm.
not. So,
Yes, yes,
um, yeah, very good to know. So, yeah, you've got that WYSIWYG. Nobody calls it that anymore. That WYSIWYG toolbar. What you see is what you get as you're typing, and you can change colors, fonts, bold,
Mhm.
italics, strike through, effects, animate. We can get really, really
Yes,
advanced. We could have done this whole session on text.
yes.
That's how much there is in here. But and I don't want to go too terribly far with it. But we've hit on design, we've hit on elements, we've hit on text.
Yes.
Essentially, if you can click on a text box and add your own content, y'all, anybody can do this. This
Yes.
is this is easy peasy lemon squeezy. I promise you.
Yes.
You do not have to get into the fancy stuff unless you just want to. But it is super fun.
I'm going to add a new page just so it's blank, so I can show you a couple little things that
And how did you do that?
I just, on the very bottom, there is an option that always says add page. You can click plus right there. The other thing you can do, let me see, you can also click over on the right hand side above whatever page you're on. There's a little square with a plus where you can also add a page there. So
And I
I've
love
got
the
the link.
duplicate. The
Yes.
duplicate, especially if you wanted to keep some of those elements from the previous page, but
Yes.
yours is going to go longer than the template, you can just duplicate it
Mhm.
and then make your revisions.
Yes, I've done that for, let's say I'm creating a header, and I've done one header, duplicate it, change the font, duplicate, change the font to see which ones I like. And then, I can delete the pages. But again,
You
go
are a
back to
font
fonts.
snob.
I need to keep on going. I can't talk about fonts anymore. All right. So one of the things that I do think is very cool is, and I learned this at ISTE last year. I don't remember if it was Tony Vincent or the Merrills. Somebody taught me this, but if you type R, it'll pop up like a rectangle, which I think is so cool because I'll use that a lot for like kind of like a placeholder and then put text on top of it. But then thankfully Canva changed it like they did in Google Drawings, where the squares or rectangles are also text boxes, which is very cool. So that's a
Yes.
nice
Okay.
little quick
Wait.
feature.
Wait, y'all. This was
Yeah.
big. This was
Yeah.
big. She acted like it wasn't, but this is a
Ah,
keyboard shortcut, and we love keyboard shortcuts at Shake Up Learning. So, and this will apply no matter what you're working on. R for rectangle, because I didn't know this one.
yeah.
R for rectangle, and I
Uh-huh.
use those all the time.
Yes. Yep. So R for rectangle. And then another one, I want to say, let me remember if it was, okay, C is circle. So now I've got a circle that's already created. And then I'm trying to think what the other ones were. There was another shape that I would always use, and I don't remember what it was. But I'll add some shortcuts. And I want to say
Because we've got some shortcuts that I think we should share that are really cool for presentations too.
yes, definitely.
Really
Oh, wait,
cool.
yes. All right. Should I go back to that now, or is there something here that we
Yeah,
want to do before?
I think we've kind of wrapped up our newsletter and just the basic tools in there. Yeah, let's go back to your presentation because I know you had some
Okay.
more things in there.
Yes, I do. And oh, wait, one more thing. In the newsletter, there is like a little paint kind of a background. That is one of those things if you're in Elements and you just search for paint, because I use this a lot for backgrounds, you can see photos that are like different paint backgrounds, and I'll put those behind text a lot too. So, but okay.
And depending on what it is, if it's a photo or if it's a graphic, and a lot of
Mhm.
times you can like the one that's in that newsletter, you can change the color.
Yes.
So a lot of things that are photos are specific colors, but you can filter, y'all. I can't help but go advanced here. You can filter your searches by a certain color too. So if you're looking for, like, I need someone with a laptop that has something pink on the desk, you can do that. Like, you can find it, or you can have AI generate it. So we're not talking about AI today. We're trying to keep it basic, but I geek out over this stuff. So much fun.
Yeah, it gets hard to stay on task.
Although none of those are laptops, but those are the graphics. But
That is true.
yeah, click on photos real quick. Let's see.
Okay, so but I just searched for a laptop and I chose a color.
It's still showing paint.
And
Oh,
it's showing paint. So, but
it's still showing paint. Yeah, I think.
let's do computer. Oops. Computer. Okay.
There we
now
go.
I do computer, and now I have
Yep.
different colors and all that
Pink
kind of
desks.
stuff. Yes.
Yep. Lots of things.
Okay. So, all right, I'm going to go back to my presentation. Now, hold on. Remind me, what were we going to show?
Just go back to your slides where we left off, and we'll just keep going through there, because I know your keyboard shortcuts are pretty
Yes, they are in
quick
there. And
in there. So
this is fun. So, okay, so I've got my templates. I'm back in my presentation. Okay, I have if you're using presentations as a teacher, and I do know a lot of people that used to use Google Slides for their presentations, kind of as a structure, and you can still use Google Slides. A lot of the times I will create visuals in Canva and use it as a background in slides, just because it's a little easier for my kids to actually work within Google Slides than in Canva. So, and that's totally fine. So, but you can create the structure for your class with your presentation, whether it's like morning meeting and then something that you want them to get to for math, or if you switch to science or whatever. So if you do use the presentations for that, there are some magic shortcuts, and I do have it up on the screen, but if you're just listening, if you click B while you're presenting, it will blur the screen. So that's
really, and this is in presentation mode, right?
Yes, in presentation mode. And I think it is full screen that you have to do it, because I've tried to do it before. It was just like a tab presenting, and it didn't work. So full screen, it does work. The Q is quiet, and if I press Q, it actually does the sound. And
teachers love that.
I know.
It's an emoji that's doing the sound and the finger.
Yep. And then if you click the O, it will pop up bubbles.
Oh, Cash will love that.
It makes the sound and everything. The confetti, this will be fun for celebrations. If you have a celebration time, let's say you have days of the day or something like that, and you want to do C for confetti. There is a D for Dremel. There's a U for curtain call. I don't know why it's U, but that's why this keyboard is kind of nice to be able to see. U. And it closes the curtains. And if you press it again, it will open up again. And one of my favorites is mic drop, and that's the M. So those are, and let me see if I can get to, okay, if I kind of hover over my presentation, on the very bottom, there is a zoom in and out, and there is a little keyboard, and that's the part, if I click on the keyboard, then I can see all those. I put it as a screenshot in my presentation so you can see it, but that's how you see that. Get rid of that.
And what does the X do?
Here, hold on a second. Okay. Oh, just clear. X clears. So it'll clear. Like if you had one up there, you can just click
If
X.
you had one up there. Okay.
Yeah. And there is an interactive Q&A with Canva Live. I haven't used that, but that is along the bottom of your presentation. You can open presenter view. You can click on the three dots and choose more, because you can actually present from a remote, which I've done from my phone, which is very cool. And there's timer. You show a timer, but there's a lot you can play with the presentations. So, all right, let me see. I'm going to go through what I have here in my presentation so that way I can see what I haven't mentioned. Posters are one of the templates that I did want to mention because this is one of those things where, especially if you can have your kids work on them, for one, you can create a poster. But this is one of those things that I'm excited for next year when we can actually do this with students, for them to be able to create posters, because then they can summarize everything they've learned and put it into a poster. You could put them around the room or you can share them digitally. There's so much you can do to get the kids involved in processing what they're learning. So posters are one of the templates. And then I do have a little GIF of looking for posters in the templates so that way you can see. And this is where we were talking before, they have ready to teach lessons. Again, I haven't explored this that much, so because we haven't been using it with kids yet, but they are already created materials that you can actually push to students, where it's like a blank template where they can put their own information into these backgrounds.
They're pretty awesome. You can search. I've played around with it. You can search for like a lot of, common things that you teach. I mean, these are all teacher created materials, ready to teach lessons, ready to go. I have also played with the magic tool that will create the lesson for you, and it'll blow your mind. It really will. It's just amazing. The Magic Studio tools. And if you're wondering why we're not going into that, we will have an episode coming pretty soon. I'm gonna have the expert, our friend over at Canva, Scott Nunes, come on to the show and onto the YouTube channel to share some more. So we wanted to get everybody started. So keep going, Pam. The infographics are awesome.
Yep. Infographics. It is another one. You just search infographics and you can see all different ones. Again, they have ready to teach lessons that do have infographics, but then it kind of gives you a structure if you wanted to create a visual for students that was an infographic for your content. So, and you can use this.
That was a timeline too, by the way. Everybody's always looking for timelines.
Yep. Yeah. Cause that's stuff. I mean, it's helpful to have infographics. I mean, think about when we're searching for information online, a lot of the times they are infographics that we find, and it's just a nice little summary option. So yeah, infographics is one of them. Newsletters, that's one that I do. I always do there's a coach newsletter that I do with the other departments at our district, that we have multiple pages in a Canva template, and then depending on if it's the ELA group or it's the math group or technology, whatever it is, we put it all on one. So, but templates, there are so many newsletter templates. It's easy to share. That's one thing I probably will do before we finish up, is how to share these things, because that can be a little tricky, because you're like, wait, how do I print it? Or how do I, where you just always have to go to share, but I'll show you that.
Yeah, but how to download and how to share, we will go back and do that.
Exactly. And then badges, this is another one that we just started using because we use Schoology, and there is an option to give badges, and there are some in there, and you can create your own. So the nice thing is you can create specific badges that are easy. You can print them, even if you wanted something that was actually tangible for kids. We even use Canva to be able to create things like this. That's like a badge. But when we're using our laser cutter or that kind of a thing, where you can create something and then actually cut it out of wood or acrylic or things like that. So, but that's a whole nother session.
We've had a lot of nether sessions today.
Yes. All right. So badges, that is one way, and they have templates. You can just search for badges, and it kind of gives you the structure already. And it's almost like just a square image, and then you can add circles to it or whatever it is that you want and call it a badge. And then, yes, I did put in here, check out Magic Studio. I'm not going to get into that because we'd be here all day. But we have Magic Design, there's presentations, there's some Magic Animate, Magic Morph, a lot. And there are things sometimes with these, since it's considered like an app within Canva, that may be blocked. So as you find things that you want to try, you might have to reach out to your technology department to have them unblock it, because they use something on the back end that might already be blocked. So the magic stuff, you might have to play with and ask for permission.
It's super cool though.
Yes. And I did put a template in the presentation that when we were trying to think of a way that we can create a newsletter that is a little bit more uniform from one page to the next. I made a template that has basically all the areas that would be included, like our instructional technology or math or ELA or gifted and talented, where each person or each department would have a page. And I have that template in there where somebody can make a copy of it. And then there's also like a Google Docs header template. Like if you use Google Forms and you want to create the header, there is a template in there. Google
Google
Docs,
Classroom,
same thing.
and the same size works for Google Classroom, and you
Yes.
can search. That was one thing in my session last week. I had some people who, even just sitting there grabbing a template, they made the
Mm-hmm.
headers for every single class they had in Google Classroom.
Yes.
And a lot of them were very, very new users to Google Class or Canva, I should say. So really, really easy.
Yeah. Yeah. We even create our Schoology. Like if you search Schoology course cards, that's another one of the templates. So like, because when
Oh,
we push out our the courses get pushed out through PowerSchool and that kind of thing. So, but all the pictures look exactly the same as far as the top corner in Schoology. So, in order to differentiate, we change the picture. And all you have to do is search Schoology course cards, and it gives you the template, so it's the right size.
I didn't know
So that
that.
is nice if you are a Schoology user. You can even use infographics size, and it will show a long banner. You can have moving parts and everything.
Cool.
It's kind of fun. So, but
Yeah.
again, there's another session.
Another session. Okay, let's talk about
Okay.
how we get it out of Canva. What do we
Yes.
do with it?
Yes. Okay. So I am back in my newsletter template, and let's say I'm done. I'm ready to go. I'm going to go to the top right hand side, and I'm going to click on share. And then actually, let me move our picture over here. All right. So you can, at the top, it says people with access. So if you want other people to be able to edit, you can just type in that box and share it. Then there's a collaboration link where you can click on that little drop down and you can choose only you can access, maybe the team that you're in can access, or anyone with a link. So I can choose that. I'm going to go ahead and choose that because if I want people to view this digitally, I want to click on share, go to collaboration link, and click on anyone with a link can view. So that way I can copy that link and I can share it with people and they can see my newsletter digitally, not just by printing. So then we have, all right, so let's say I want to print it. I click on share, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll see a little arrow that has the arrow with the line that says download. And I'll click on that. And there's a few things that you have to choose. One is the file type. So if I want to click on a drop down, the first thing that popped up here was an MP4 video because I have a GIF on there and I don't want it as a video. So I'm just going to click on that little drop down under file type and I'm going to change it based on probably I'll do PDF print because it's best for printing. I'm going to choose PDF print and you can select the pages. So if you only want to do one page, like when we do our coach newsletter that has 14 pages, but I want to download a PDF of just my page, I can click on the select pages and only choose my current page. But if I want the whole newsletter as a PDF, I can leave it all checked, all pages, and it has a color profile drop down. I don't really mess with that much. It just says best for digital use. I don't really mess with
Yeah.
it.
You don't need to worry
And
about it right at this
mhm,
stage in most
yes.
cases.
So, and then all I have to do is hit download. So share, scroll down, go to the little download option. I'm choosing PDF print for this, and I'm just going to click download. And once I click download, it'll pop up and show PDF print newsletter template, and it will pop open. So, and I'm on the computer right now, so it name it and save it wherever I want. If I want it on my desktop or whatever, you can choose where you want it.
Yeah,
And
I would say for most things you're going to download either as a PDF,
mhm,
a PNG or JPEG of an image file. Like if you're going to create those headers we were talking about for Google Classroom,
mhm.
or if you're doing like a video, you know, some kind of video file. I would say those were probably the most common. I still do majority of of my use is images, but it is changing because I am doing more. But and then you go and upload that wherever it goes. So,
Yes.
like if she's going to share that link for viewing and she's going to send that out in an email, she's going to copy that link and put that in an email. And if it's a PDF, she's going to attach it maybe, or she's going to upload that into wherever, Google Drive or Schoology or Google Classroom or whatever you use. I do want to point out there is an LMS feature as well that Canva talks to Google Classroom and to Schoology, and
Yes.
I found the list at one point, and it's quite extensive of how many they're already working with. So you can seamlessly assign things into your LMS from here too. So there's just so much, y'all. I know we've covered a lot and we kind of skipped around, but we geek out and we can't help but, and I'm interrupting her. It's all my fault that she got off task. So don't blame Pam. I had lots of questions and lots of things that I wanted to make sure that we talked about. So, but Pam, do you have any last minute tips or anything else you want to share?
Let's see. I actually have to go back. Let me just see if there's anything else. No, really just, I mean, just play around in it. Don't be afraid to try it. And if you are on X, that, or really any social media, you can find Canva on there and you can get ideas but just check it out. And if you ever have any questions, I'm Special Techie on, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. I still have a hard time not calling it Twitter.
Yeah.
But you can email me, and I also have a blog, SpedTechGeek /blog. So that is all my contact stuff. And then we also have the Innovation Squadcast is our podcast that we do in my department, and a lot of the times we will do Canva sessions. So I'm going to add those to the presentation. Actually, links directly to anything that we've done in the past for Canva. So that way you can watch those. It's a YouTube, Spotify. You got a video or audio that you can listen to, and of course, you had tons of them too. We can go on for days. All Canva.
Awesome. Yeah, and we will have lots of links below the video and in the show notes for this. So thank you, Pam, for taking the time to share your expertise and putting up with me as your student today. I have learned some new tricks, and I am always grateful to have you on the podcast.
Oh, it's easy. We can talk about this all day. That might be part of the problem, but